knew I wanted to be with my children. And that was like, I could get emotional talking about it now. I never wanted anything to interfere with that. Did the business grow slower? Did I make more mistakes? Did we miss out on opportunities? 100%. But you know what? I never missed out on anything with my kids. If you've got a great idea or a great product, and most importantly, you believe in yourself and you're passionate about it, it will work. I started a business with a country ham biscuit. Nobody knew what country ham was. I mean, except for people in South Carolina, North Carolina, and Georgia. And I'm still here 20 years later.
Hi, everyone. It's Angie, and welcome to More Like You. This week, I'm talking with Carrie Morey, the founder of Callie's Hot Little Biscuit. Carrie started her company when she was a new mom, and her vision was clear. She wanted to do meaningful work while prioritizing her family. And she had this idea to make her mom's delicious, made-by-hand biscuits accessible nationwide. And she wanted to do that by selling these biscuits on the internet. This was 2005, so Carrie seemed a bit ahead of her time. And her mom, Callie herself, thought it was a terrible idea. 20 years later, Callie's Hot Little Biscuit has grown into an iconic Southern brand with a national retail presence. Today's episode is about how you don't have to constantly move forward or move fast to build something meaningful. You can take a step back, you can go at your own pace, and you can trust the timing. Here's my conversation with Carrie Morey. Carrie, it's so nice to officially meet you. I feel like I know you. We went to the University of South Carolina, and I feel like we may have crossed, but we had mutual friends. And for the past couple of decades, I've watched your business grow, and people have said, like, you really need to talk to Carrie. And so I'm glad that it's finally happening.
It's so fun to reconnect. I mean, I know that we weren't in the same circles and in school, but we definitely were on the periphery of each other and knew of each other. So it's fun to connect now in this different world.
It's fun to talk to you right now while you're in your office. You can hear.
You can probably hear the tape
the work.
guns. Yeah.
We're going to go back in time and talk about so many things, but let's start right now, giving us a snapshot of what Callie's Hot Little Biscuit is today.
Yeah. Well, we are surviving and somewhat thriving, but, I feel like we have come so far in our 20 years in business, which is hard to believe. I did not have this vision, but we are now with 2 grab-and-go eateries in downtown Charleston. We have an e-commerce presence. We have a wholesale business. We distribute to Whole Foods, Harris Teeter, the Fresh Market, a slew of other great partners. And that was not at all what I had in store for myself, but it evolved authentically. And, every day looks different. Right now, we're going through a surprise DHEC audit. You just never know what you're going to wake up to. And I think that's the life of an entrepreneur. So I have definitely come to get used to that, if you can even say get used to it. And, I am very grateful for this journey that I have put myself on, but really unintentionally had no idea of all the surprises that were going to be coming our way over the last 20 years. So it's been fun.
Well, that is a good entry to what feels like the next question of how you started it and what your original vision was.
Charleston was a very different place in 2005 than it is today. Not many of my friends worked. I mean, I was the only one that said, oh, yeah, I'm going to work. And then had Caroline, who is our oldest of 3 daughters, and realized that I really wanted to be a full-time stay-at-home mom because I wanted to have that connection with our daughters. And so with Caroline in tow at 6 months old, kind of twiddling my thumbs, thinking I probably need something else for my own self, for my own well-being. And my idea was to do something within my passion, which was food, specifically Southern food. But I knew that I also just wanted it to be a side hustle. I did not want this massive career. I had worked in New York and all over the country and had been really working hard over the 10 years since college. And I wanted to create just a small little business that I was, doing something part-time, but able to have my number one goal be being a mom. So I went to my mom, Callie, and I said, Mom, I've grown up in your catering business. Everyone loves your country ham biscuits and they ask you all the time for them. Let's create a country ham biscuit business. And she said, that is a horrible idea. Why would we do that? They're too hard to make. They're super expensive, labor intensive. And I said, well, I'll do everything. You just make the biscuits and I'll run the business and we'll sell them on the internet. I mean, in 2005, my mother didn't know what the internet was. She didn't have an email address. This was foreign to her. So she never really got the concept. Luckily for me, I was just blind ambition and had no fear because I didn't have the vision that I have today. It took a while. It was super slow, but I got my wish. I was able to be a mom first and also have this side hustle of a business that was slow, but we were seasonal and it was perfect for me being able to have my number one job. So that's how it started, as just mailing by order on the internet or phone calls our country ham biscuits. And it stayed like that until about 2008 when we decided, oh, maybe we should launch another flavor because not everybody in the world knows what country ham is. And what about the poor vegetarians that we've forgotten about? So
It's one thing after another.
yeah.
And even to me, I can imagine how your mom felt, but even to me, it feels a little ahead of your time. Because I did not even start blogging until 2008, 2 years after my son was born, and like just figuring out, oh, what is this Facebook thing? So to understand at 2005 that you could sell stuff on the internet, I do imagine like your mom thought it was a crazy idea. Did you think it was a crazy idea, or did you know you were onto something?
Well, I had been in New York working for an internet startup company. And I think I can remember the day that our marketing director came into our meeting and she said, you're going to be able to order movie tickets on your phone. I mean, not everybody even had phones at that time. And I said, that's the silliest idea ever. But the more I was living in this internet world, I mean, it was hard. It's very similar to what's going on right now with AI. It's like it makes sense, but it doesn't make sense. Is this really going to be our future? Like, how is it going to work? And it has become that and more, as we know now. So I did believe in it. I had no idea how big it would be. No, of course. I mean, so I was like, yeah, this is perfect for what I want to do. I want to work 20 hours a week, make some biscuits, sell some biscuits, and it just be this like, it was really a creative outlet for me. I didn't have a vision for grocery. I didn't have a vision for, the growth that we've had.
I like when I was looking back on your story that in being in and around your mom's catering business, you did pick up on the fact that these ham biscuits were always a hit. And you knew, even though it was a very Southern thing, that everybody needed to know about these and needed to taste them and experience them. And that idea, in addition to your pursuit of balance, it always seems, I read somewhere that you said it was never really about the money, but it seemed to be about a strong sense of purpose and value, but also a belief in your product from the beginning.
Yes. I knew I wanted to be with my children. And that was like, I could get emotional talking about it now. And honestly, as I'm sure yours, my greatest accomplishment is being a mom. And I never wanted anything to interfere with that. So that was all I needed. And to look back on it now and say, wow, I actually did that. Did the business grow slower? Did I make more mistakes? Did we miss out on opportunities? 100%. But you know what? I never missed out on anything with my kids. And so for me, it could all end tomorrow and I feel like I've done what I came to do, right? But I used to take those biscuits that I was the server of, and I used to put them in foil and take them to New York, and I would hand write a note to the customer that I was trying to get at the time and I'd heat the biscuits up and I'd courier them over. And people that weren't from the South would say, "What is this? Like, this is the best thing I've
Mhm.
ever put in my mouth." And so that's when I started to realize that people it wasn't that country ham was a Southern thing. They didn't care, right? So it was like, this is
Right.
a comfort food. It is tender, melt in your mouth, buttery. Okay, how do we make this on a scale other than the 500 that my mom would make in her kitchen for her catering parties? So I knew that biscuits evoked comfort and memory. And even if you're not from the South, you usually have somebody in your family that has made biscuits by hand. And that was dying. Nobody was doing it anymore. And that was the other part that my mom couldn't understand, because for her to make 500 biscuits was no big deal, but nobody did it anymore. And I grew up with a grandmother who made biscuits for every meal. So I was a part of that, the ending of that generation of where, biscuits were on our table for every meal. And it wasn't just breakfast fast food. It was really more for supper for us and sustenance than anything. So I knew that there was this, I hate to call it marketing, but there was this authentic story about how we have lost the art of biscuit making and it needs to be revived. And what better person to revive it than this mother-daughter team who have authentically made biscuits, or she made the biscuits, I just served them. And so it just seemed to make sense. And I knew she couldn't cater forever. And I was like, this could be this thing that we make together that would, help you transition from catering, which is so hard physically, into this thing. But she didn't believe in it. And she was like, this is a horrible idea. I talked her into doing it. She helped me start it. She worked in it. She hated it. And so I said, we're going to kill each other. One of us has to go. And is it going to be you or me? And she was like, have at it. And that was an amazing gift. So,
Well, and so you were the marketing and the business mind behind the business. You had said your mom had been concerned that they're hard to make and they're expensive. So when suddenly making the biscuits falls on you, I'm imagining now you're making these biscuits. Did you realize, oh, wow, they are hard to make in this amount? And, how did you make it work out with the books if they were expensive to make?
well, it's different. I look at myself today and I think, I don't know what I'm doing with pricing. It's so hard to work in big grocery, what we call CPG business, with pricing and promotions. But to do it on a scale of selling it online or by the phone, I could figure that out. I knew how to do the numbers there. They aren't hard to make. It's labor intensive, and that is the hard part. And using the best ingredients, and using real butter, using the best flour, cream cheese, whole buttermilk, all the things that make our biscuits great. And the handmade process also makes it great. So all those things that I just mentioned haven't changed. The only thing that's changed is that we're selling to more people. And so we've had to figure out, how can we make this available to more people. When we got our first grocery store, big grocery store, which was the Fresh Market, we sold biscuits for over 6 years on their freezer shelf for $18 a dozen, which is unheard of today. How I even was successful in that realm is mind blowing to me. I would never be able to sell a product today in Whole Foods for that price. And, I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know that I shouldn't be selling by the dozen. I should be selling by the six. I mean, there are just all these things that I learned by default, being in the business, not coming from the business, that tricks and tips that I learned by failure. And so,
Mhm.
there's been a huge evolution in our growth as far as wholesale and distribution goes. But the e-commerce business is really what I wanted it to be. But the problem is that e-commerce took a long time to ramp up, right? So we're now just in that stage over the last few years of where people are really learning to shop online for food, high-end specialty food. And so, but it still does not, I cannot run a business year round on e-commerce alone. So the question was always, well, what if we did this? Well, what if we tried to sell them this way? What if we tried to sell them this? Like that entrepreneurial question that you're always trying to, how can we sell more? How can we sell more? Uh, And I didn't realize what I was getting myself into when we started selling to Whole Foods National and all the things that have come our way, which sound wonderful. And they are. And it's an amazing gift. But there's so much behind the scenes that is really hard work financially.
And when you started out, and then one of your next steps was opening that storefront in Charleston, which was a marketing move for you.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, you didn't anticipate that it would continue to grow. So what was this storefront idea? What purpose did it serve to have that store on King Street?
So I started a food blog to bring people to our website, just anything. I was like, I'll cook at home all the time anyway. I'm going to start writing these recipes. My book agent actually suggested this to me. And then she came back to me and said, you need to write a cookbook. This would be a great marketing thing. It all made sense to me. And I'm like, okay, but I don't know how to write a cookbook. Can you help me? And she said, yes. And she helped me do all the things. And when I went on the cookbook tour, people kept saying, well, when we come to Charleston, where can we get your biscuits hot? And I didn't have a solution. And so I went back to my food community chefs and said, y'all need to sell my biscuits on your menu. And every single one of them said, hell no, they're too expensive and we can't do this. And I said, okay, well, where can they get the hot little biscuits was the question that I was asking myself. Like, I don't know how to solve this. And I went and heard a talk from the marketing director of Stonewall Kitchens, which is a pretty popular brand out of Maine. And she said, everybody knows that these storefronts that we do are not moneymakers. They are brand builders. They are, we break even at best. And that stuck with me. And I thought, that seems like a horrible idea, but okay, I understand because the problem at that time with the internet business before Instagram was there was no touch, feel, look, right? Like I'm living out in the internet world, but nobody knows Callie's Biscuits, and there was really no way to advertise that. And so my thought was, if I could just open a little sliver of a biscuit shop that would sell biscuits 8 to 2, Monday through Saturday, because I wanted to be able to drop my kids off and pick them up and have somebody work for me on Saturday so I could be at home with them for the weekends. This would be a great way to market the brand. And I'm going to call it the Hot Little Biscuit Shop because it's like an outpost of Callie's Biscuits. And so that's what we did. And it gave us way more than that. And we're now 11 years into that little outpost. And it's just unbelievable to me that we've had such an incredible reception. And now there's biscuit shops on every corner, right? I'm like, oh my God, there's another one. There's another one. And so obviously biscuits, comfort food have come into favor. I think Charleston has had a major part in that. And I think we've maybe had a small piece in bringing light to the biscuit making. And if you go back to the original goal, it was to revive the art of biscuit making. So another thing that I feel like we are very proud that we've been a part of.
From the outside looking in, it still seems that as much as it's grown, the core value and the spirit behind it is still there. You have started a Substack where you offer, there's recipes, but also business advice, and you have mentored business students. And I saw in one of your posts where you really encourage that young entrepreneur to really think about where they see it going.
Yeah.
Where do you really want this to be? But looking back on your younger self, could you have done that? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, could
Yeah.
you have even imagined that? And is there a part of you that maybe wishes it had stayed small? And would that even be possible if something is in such a demand as your product was?
Those are questions that I'm even today still asking myself, and I don't have the answer to all of them. I tend not to regret. I want to be really grateful and mindful for what life has given me, and I'm a strong believer that the universe, whoever the higher power is that you believe in, puts you on a path, and that's the way you need to go. And if you're supposed to turn left or right, then that will come to you too. And so the one thing that I probably would not have been able to say is the family life that I have kept sacred would not have been that way had I wanted to do this scaled business from the beginning. And so for that, for me, I don't need the success isn't necessarily about how big the company gets. 20 years in, maybe we can take a different turn now that my youngest is a senior in high school. But I don't know that maybe this is supposed to just be a high-end biscuit company, that we are a part of your traditions, and we're not going to be in every grocery store. I'm still trying to figure out how that looks and learning about that and testing the waters, and it's a very I don't have an answer, I guess is what I want to say to you, because I'm not
Yeah.
sure yet, and I have I have explored a lot of those opportunities, but I have yet to say, I'm ready to do this immediately. So I'm just waiting and continuing to work and continuing to take every meeting and every conversation until I know what the answer is, I guess is how I have to
Yeah.
say. And no, I do give that advice now because I think some people have a different vision. My vision today is still to be a mom first. So I am doing what I set out to do. And that may change in a year or two. I'm just gonna let it ride out and see.
Yeah. Well, and how this advice plays out, or how it looks to me, is you knew what you wanted the business to be when you started. And as you said, you get to these pivot points where you feel like life, the universe, God is taking you, like pushing you. Maybe it needs to go this way or this way. And then we have to adjust. But you did know what you wanted. And then you also pivoted and gave this thing you created room to grow, which I think is really cool. And I do want to turn it to family life a little bit, because you are now in this place where you answered the question that I had. How old were your girls now? You have 3 children
Mhm.
and 3 girls
Yes, 3
and
girls.
2 in college, and your youngest is a senior in high school. Okay.
Yes.
So I'm in the stage of life where my first of 3 is now a sophomore in college. I still have 2 at home, but I see this train coming down the track. So you are at this other, like a new pivot point in your life where perhaps are you asking yourself different questions about the business now
Yes.
for yourself? Yeah.
Not I don't wanna retire. I love to work. I hope that I have the opportunity to work until I am no longer able. It is exercise for your brain, and I'm a huge believer in exercising your whole body. So I don't know that I'll be working at Callie's Biscuits my whole life, but I also know that I don't have any other grand plans, or, a lot of entrepreneurs have 4 or 5, 6 different business ideas. This is my gig. I'm not doing anything else. That's not to say I might not call you. I might call you for, an internship or an assistant position one day when Callie's is no longer. I don't know. I just know that I will always work. And I would love to be a part of Callie's forever. But, as you get older, you start thinking about, like, what's my exit strategy? Where am I taking this company? I didn't think about those things in the beginning. Life was too crazy. I was just trying to keep up. And to some extent, I'm still trying to do that. I work very great full days, but I also come home every afternoon and I'm with my child, and I cook supper, and I have a great balance, which I think is hard. That's a hard thing to achieve. So I'm not I'm not trying to make any grand plans, but I'm also keeping all of my options open and really thinking about, what do I want my life to look like? I know I don't want to not work. I know I want to work, and I know that I love and I'm very passionate about this. So I'm just trying to figure out what that looks like. And is it just where it is today and we're just going to stay and push on? Or are we going to maybe look for a partner and make it into something that I can't do on my own? And I've tried. And that's the other thing, I think business kind of goes like this. And we've had opportunities where I take it, and we've taken huge opportunities, and they've been great, but it's ebbs and flows, the business, I guess is what I'd say.
So do you, looking back, feel like you really were able to maintain that balance? Because it seems like you had 2 babies. Well, you actually had 3 live babies
3
and a
live
business
babies. That's
baby.
yeah.
And a business baby. And yet you had boundaries around when your attention was at work. But How did that feel? Did you feel stretched and pulled? Do you feel like you navigated that as well as anyone could? And I ask this question, it's personal in nature too, because my career aspirations certainly have shifted. And I am ambitious, but it is still around the confines of this is what my workday looks like because I still have to at home. And there is a shifting out of work mode because they're coming home and they need things. Even though they're independent, I still am in this shortened workday in my mind.
Yes.
And it's a tug all the time.
Yes. I struggle with that. I think every woman struggles with that. And what I kept telling myself is this is a moment in time and I will never regret staying at work longer. I will regret if I miss anything. And the universe intervened at the busiest, craziest time in our life when we had 4 restaurants, 2 out of state, working with Costco, trying to scale the business on our own without investors. And I had an incredible team that was helping me. And our youngest daughter has epilepsy and in 2021 had massive seizures that we couldn't get under control and we had to pull her out of school and I didn't leave the house. I sat with her and worked from her bed for 6 months. And I couldn't have done that without a team that we had that helped keep the business running, but still like those were the signs to me, okay, maybe you're pushing it a little too hard. Maybe you need to scale it back. Like you know your priority. And I just kept telling myself, I'm where I'm supposed to be. I'm where I'm supposed to be. That may change tomorrow. It may change in 6 months. And so I just tend to try to remind myself of my beacon light, which is family first. And like, what is the worst that could happen? If I can't open the store today because I don't have employees and I have to be at home with my kids, okay.
Right.
And COVID taught us that too, by the way, that like the
Yes, it
world
did.
can stop and we're still going to be okay. And our culture, and if you travel to different areas, you learn quickly that our culture has created this self hysteria of work, 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 which I am very guilty of. And it's an addiction, but it's times like your children getting sick or volleyball games that you don't want to miss where you're like, it's not worth it. Like it's going to be okay. And so you have to have those reminders, right?
And I think it's worth restating because we're looking at your business now, but this is 20 years down the road. It did grow slowly. It wasn't an overnight success. And what I think I hear you saying is you could have grown it exponentially years and years ago, but you were kind of keeping the brakes on it.
Yeah.
And it still grew into what it wanted to be. It almost feels like the business itself had an energy and it just wanted it to become its own thing too. But you really did grow to the best that you could at your own pace.
Yeah. And, you know, you have moments where you have this momentum, and this happened at Hot Little Biscuit where, you know, people were waiting in line for an hour and a half, all in the line just to get in to order. And then they'd get to order and we'd be sold out. And, you know, so much business isn't always a great thing, number one. Number two, you know, you can be on the growth trajectory and you can pull back and you can get the rest of your life together and refocus and you can start again. And that's something that I didn't realize until a couple of years ago because it was so hard. I was like, why is this so hard? And then I finally got to the goal that I had for that year and it didn't change anything. And so I'm like, we're going to pull back and we're going to refocus and we're spending all this money, but we're not getting where we need to be. What is the problem? And the problem is in my business with regards to scaling this biscuit business is I'm making a product by hand, but I'm trying to be in all grocery stores in the country, or not all, but all, you know, like I'm trying to scale it. And those two things are not working together. So we got to come back and figure out a different way to do it. And so that means backing down and starting all over again and really looking at the numbers, which is the hard part of the business that the consumer doesn't understand. That, you know, when you're on the shelf at the grocery store it seems great, but that's the easy part. The hard part
Mhm.
is staying on the shelves and getting people to buy them. I mean, you think, oh, she's in Whole Foods. That's great. Nope. You're constantly wondering about, can I afford the promos? Are people buying them? Are they buying them enough as often? I mean, it's just every business has that facet, but there's just a whole nother set of stress that comes along with these amazing milestones if you're lucky enough to have them like we have been, that is the work, right?
That's
So
right. Well, and you do have enough wisdom and life experience and this hindsight. I It's something I'm still learning too, that you can pull back. Like, I still have something in my brain, and maybe it's from working in television news where everything was urgent all the time, and I feel like my brain is still wired like that, that I'm afraid to slow down,
same.
but then I realize, "Oh, not only is it okay, it was necessary."
Yes. And my husband tells me
And
that all the time. He says 2 things. He's like, "Who's to say you can't go back to those people and do this in a year when you're ready?" And also, if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. And that is something that we need to remind ourselves of. And the timing is up to you, right? You can do it whenever. If you've got a great idea or a great product, and most importantly, you believe in yourself and you're passionate about it, it will work. I started a business with a country ham biscuit. Nobody knew what country ham was. I mean, except for people in South Carolina, North Carolina, and Georgia. And I'm still here 20 years later. And I started with this one product. I had no vision. So I believe that the belief that I have had in this brand and this company and the story is what has carried me this far. And it's up to me where we go from here. And I just don't quite know what I want to do yet, but we're working through it.
your daughters, anyone following in your footsteps or expressed an interest in being in this business?
Really, I mean, they've worked in it since they were 14. They've worked with us at Hot Little Biscuit and here at production. And both of them are at Carolina, and they are HRTA majors, that hotel restaurant tourism. So I think they have that in their blood, but I have made it very clear to them that I want them to do their own thing. Not because I don't want them to be a part of the business. That would be wonderful for me, but I want them to find their own passion. I went to work for my dad when I came back to Charleston, and I realized I love working with him, but I wasn't passionate about what he was doing. And so it made work really not fun. So I think
Mhm.
that's the number one goal for me, is to create space between this brand and my children. I love that I've inspired them, but I want them to wake up like I do every day, like no matter how bad it is, I'm still ready to go to work because I still truly love it. And that is my wish for them.
Thank you so much for being with me today. Before we go, someone is just finding you and the brand, and it's also holiday season coming up.
Yes.
So, how can people learn about everything Callie's Biscuits?
Yes. Well, first of all, visit us at calliesbiscuits.com, where you can order all of our products, and we make a great gift. We make a great corporate gift, holiday gift, traditions for all the good, delicious food over the holidays. But also visit us on Instagram at Callie's Hot Little Biscuit or Carrie Bailey Morey. We are doing recipes weekly, all the things about biscuits in more ways than you could ever imagine. So we'd love to have you be a part of our community.
And I also noticed on the website you can put in your zip code for a store locator to see if Callie's Biscuits are available in grocery stores near you.
Yes, that's right. We are in Whole Foods nationwide in the freezer section. We're in Harris Teeter nationwide, all of the fresh markets. So we've got decent distribution, and we can ship directly to your door.
Wonderful. Carrie, thank you so much for joining me today. I cannot wait to share this conversation with my people.
Thank
So
you for
I'll
having
let
me,
you get
and
back
so
to
great
it.
to see you. Take care.
So during our conversation, I completely forgot to ask Carrie what her mom thinks about all of this now. So I sent Carrie an email with questions for Callie herself. I wanted to know, does she still think it's a crazy idea? And is she still glad that she got out of that business when she did? And here's what she wrote. To answer your questions about regrets, I have none. My motto in life has always been timing is everything. I was close to retirement when Carrie came to me about the biscuit idea. It was fun making up different biscuits and launching the business. Getting all of the publicity made me very proud. But I'm not that ambitious, so the growth part was not my favorite. I also don't enjoy production work. It was perfect timing to bow out when I did and let Carrie soar with her growth ideas. I'm content to revel in the unbelievable empire she has built. So thank you very much, Callie, for this wonderful, insightful message, and again to Carrie Morey for being a part of this conversation. And thank you all for listening to More Like You. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear from you. At the top of the show notes, you'll see a link to send a text message. Send me your questions and comments and show ideas, anything that's on your mind. And for behind-the-scenes stories and insights, subscribe to my weekly newsletter, Hello Friday. Just go to angiemazel.com, subscribe to sign up. Thanks again, and I'll see you back here next week.